Hey, how's it going? My name is Reece. Now in today's video, I'm going to go ahead and show you actually how you can hire a remote cold calling team so they can come over, take care of your cold calling for you, help you book more meetings for your agency, and ultimately so you can grow and make more money with more predictability in the way that you're doing so. Now, if you don't know who I am already, my name is Reece. I work with agencies to help them book a more consistent and predictable flow of qualified meetings for their agencies. One of the main ways that we do that is cold calling. It's very effective. It's working very, very well right now. And in some niches, some offers, it's still very, very untapped. So what I'm going to be doing in today's video is giving you the entire strategy, everything that you need to actually be able to hire a cold calling team. I'm going to show you the exact same process that we use. So you can just take this, you can learn from it, and you can build out your own cold calling team and help yourself as we go along. So without further ado, let's go ahead and we're going to jump right into it. So first things first, why hire a cold calling team? Well, the main reason that you should be doing it in the first place is to increase volume. So if you're in a situation yourself where you're working a 9-to-5 job, or you're in university or something like that, some reason you're unable to actually put a lot of time into doing the cold calling yourself, but you know that it works because you've got a proven system, that's the number one reason that you should hire a cold calling team, because you can go ahead and you can increase your volume and get better results. Now, when it comes to client acquisition in general, whatever form you're doing, whether cold calling, cold email, social media, doesn't matter. You need to be doing enough to be able to, be doing enough volume to actually reach the people that would be interested. Now, around 50% of your market are never going to buy. They're just not going to be interested. And if you keep that number in mind, you'll realize that you need to do enough volume to be able to go beyond that 50% of the market that wouldn't purchase and go closer to the percent of people that would. So we got to do enough volume. Now, the second reason is increasing variation testing speed. And what I mean by that is when it comes to client acquisition, just like if you're a scientist, you've got a hypothesis, you feel like something might work, you're going to put it out to the market, you're going to do an experiment. Based on the data you get, whether it goes really well, you keep doing it. If it doesn't go well, you make a change and you go back and do it again. It's the same thing when it comes to client acquisition. So with cold calling, it takes a lot of time to actually make these calls. Maybe if you're good, you can do 100 dials a day, maybe a little bit more. But you're going to get to a point where you want to do more variation testing, you want to test more scripts. And in that scenario, you might want to hire more people so you can test quicker and start getting results. Because ultimately, if you can do 100 dials a day, 2 people can do 200 dials a day, 5 people can do 500 dials a day, and that's a lot of testing. And very, very quickly, you would be able to find what kind of script would work well for you by doing more volume, right? More volume and more variation testing. And the third reason is just so you can focus on higher level activities. Now, if you've been doing cold calling for a while, you're probably in a position where you're booking some meetings, you're doing pretty good, and now you should probably go ahead and attend those sales calls, or actually work on helping out your clients in terms of optimizing your current outreach or managing your team, your fulfillment team, making sure that your clients are getting good results, making sure that you can attend the sales calls, and everything's all working out the way that it should be there. But there's a particular reason that you shouldn't be hiring cold calling team, and you shouldn't be offloading cold calling, and that is, don't hire a cold calling team to escape pain. Now, let me be honest with you, quite transparent. A lot of people don't particularly enjoy cold calling, but it's ridiculously effective. So sometimes you've got to step your emotions aside. You've got to realize, sure, maybe I don't particularly enjoy this, but it works, so let me do more of it. If you're in a position right now where you're thinking, hey, you know what I'll do? I'm going to go ahead and hire a cold calling team just so I don't need to go through the pain myself and I can just let other people go through the pain. This will not help anybody. We're not hiring magicians. You need to have a process for people to follow. You need to be able to train these people, and you can only do that if you've overseen it yourself. Now, for a lot of the agencies that I work with, I give them our full system, everything that they need to succeed, the scripts, the exact process, everything that they need to succeed. And in that scenario, they can just take our training and they can give it to those people. But if you are in a situation where you don't have access to something like that, and you're in a position where you want to build a cold calling team, you need to go out and do it yourself first so you can get some experience, and then you'll be able to actually coach your team, right? Because if you're not working with me, I'm not going to be there to coach your team for you. You need to do the coaching, so you need to be able to have the resources that you can actually go coach them on the process and get them hired, or get them actually working at KPI is what I mean. So let's say that you're in a position where it does make sense to hire a cold calling team based on what I've said. Well, let's go ahead and actually get into the video properly of how to hire them in the first place. I wanted to go through the prerequisites first of why you should or maybe shouldn't hire, because it's very important. It's very important that you understand what you're getting into. When you're hiring, we hire for a reason. We've got a particular goal in mind, and we're going to go hire based on the goal, based on the objective we've got, so we can actually hit the targets that we've got. So you've got to understand when it makes sense to do so. If you're in a position where it is, let's get on to actually how to do this. So how to hire a cold calling team. Well, there's a few different things here. Firstly, you need leads. It's kind of obvious. You also need a technical setup. We use either Go High Level or Skype. Really simple. Primarily Go High Level. Skype is more, actually, I can't even say it's a budget option, because aside from the fee that you pay for Go High Level, the actual cooling cost is the same. But of course, you don't have the extra $97 a month Go High Level subscription. So Skype, if you're just starting out, can be more affordable. You also need a job post. You need to write something that's going to capture people's interest and tell them what you're doing, and then you need to go out there and actually post it and tell people, hey, come submit an application form. And then of course you need an application form for them to sign out. You also want to have breakdowns of good calls and bad calls. This is where your own experience comes in, because you can take the recordings that you've already got, upload them to a Google Drive and say, hey, these are all of the good calls that I had, and these are the reasons they were good. These are some of the bad calls I had, and these are the reasons that the bad calls are bad calls. And that's going to be part of your training resources. You're also going to want a script. You're going to want all of that different information to make sure that you can coach them and really truly support them. And that's why, as I said before, that this is going to work best if you've actually got experience doing cold calling, as opposed to if you're just hiring just straight off the bat and you don't know what you're doing. So I hope that makes sense. Now, I'm going to go ahead and presume that you've already got leads, because if you don't, then you haven't done this before and you should go and do it. And if you do, or if you still don't, then and you don't know where to find them, I mean, there are a bunch of different tools out there that you can use, such as Apollo.io and many others, to find numbers that you can go ahead and call. So I'm going to presume that you've got leads. I'm going to presume that you've got the technical set up, and now you just need to hire a cold calling team. So the application form, that's where this kind of starts. For the application form, you want to kind of keep it simple. Your goal is to get enough volume in, because the way that we're going to be paying these people is primarily it's a performance-based role. So they get paid basically like a commission, or a pay per qualified appointment, or pay per show, or different things. You can kind of figure that out yourself. I can give those are the free options. You can choose whatever makes the most sense for you. But keep in mind that when it comes to paying people, you want to incentivize them to do the right actions. The right actions here are to book qualified people onto your calendar that show up. That's the priority. Qualified people that show up. So it would make sense to incentivize qualified booked calls that show up, qualified show ups basically. So you can pay them based on that. You can pay them per qualified show up, or qualified book call, or however you want to do it. But again, incentivize the action that you want them to take. Don't pay them just per hour, because then they just work per hour and they don't care about actually getting you results, because they don't get paid more. They get paid the same amount by just sitting around, lazing around all day and calling one lead every hour than they would, if they did like $200 a day. So just be sensible and incentivize the right actions. In terms of the application form, again, we keep this simple. We're going for volume. We're trying to get a lot of people in, as many people as possible. So the general kind of structure that I'm going to give you, a general framework that you can use is, hi, we are a location-based agency. So, hi, we're a London-based paid advertising agency, and we're looking to hire a team of cold calling appointment setters to help us reach more niche businesses. So let's say you work with, I don't know, med spas. You say we work with more med spa businesses. Let's say you work with, I don't know, lawyers. You can say more law firms. We'll give you a script and full training. We just need some committed individuals to make the cold calls and track your results. This is a performance-based role, meaning that you're in full control of how much money you're making. OTE, which means on-track earnings, is, then give them a range, within the next 45 days based on your performance. Interested? Comment below interested, and I'll reach out with a link to an application form. Pretty simple. There's not too much going on here. The first line, hi, we're an X-based agency looking for a team of appointment setters. It just flag out there, this is what we're looking. It's gonna capture their attention. You say, we'll give you the script, we'll give you the full training. We just need committed individuals to make the calls and track your results. This is going to tell them, hey, like, you don't really need to be super experienced. We're going to give you everything that we need. We just need you to be driven, actually want to make this work. This is a performance-based role, meaning you're in full control of how much money you're making, which is going to show them that, hey, if you're looking for just something that you can be lazy at, this isn't going to be a fit. You're going to be paid based on your performance. So work well and you get paid more. And we're putting this in their benefit, because good salespeople and good appointment setters, good people that would be interested in this type of role, they are driven, they are hungry, they want to put their money into their control. And those are the type of people that we're looking for. So you can go out, you can post this, and those are the people that are going to be interested. People aren't going to reach out to you if, you know, they want to get paid a salary. And salespeople shouldn't really get paid a salary in the first place. They should get paid on performance. OTE, again, means on-track earnings. Give them a range within the next 45 days based on your performance. This is to give them some type of indication of how much money they can be making. For this, what you want to do is work out how you're going to be performing them, and then just kind of give it a standard range. You know, what's the lowest that they would make if they're just about hitting the KPI, the good enough level to stay with you? You know, put that as the lowest point. What do they need to make, like, what do they need to be earning based on what you're going to be paying them? What do they need to be earning just to stay in your team? And the highest is like, what's the most that you feel like they can make, like in a genuine thing. Don't make this 50,000 a month, because that's just not true. You know, make it, you know, it could be like 1,000 or 2, just depending on how much you're paying them and how you're paying them. But just give them a range that makes sense, and it's going to, by doing this, you're actually going to attract the right type of talent that you want to work with. Then again, interested, comment interested below, and I'll reach out with a link to application form. This is just a standard call to action, just to get them to respond. They're going to respond, they're going to say interested, and you can send them in an application form. So what would the application form look like? Well, the application form itself is quite simple. The goal is just to, as I said before, if the goal of the job post is to get volume, the goal of the application form is to separate those that are strong applicants from those that are probably not a very good fit. So the application form, some standard questions: name, email, contact number, location, age. Can you work in time zones, whatever the time zone is that you're going to be targeting? Ask them if they can work in that time zone. Ask them what their availability is, and if they're doing anything else on the side. From this, you're going to know, you know, if you need somebody full-time, then you're going to be saying, hey, we need you full-time here. Also get their sales experience, their cold calling specific experience, the highest number of appointments that they've set in a given month, what their knowledge and experience is with your particular niche, and lastly, just ask them to upload a 30-second selfie video talking about something they're passionate about. So the reason you want to ask about the time zone is pretty obvious, just to make sure that they can actually work in the time zone that you need them to. The availability is to make sure that they can do enough of the dials that you need. You know, they've got enough time in the day to do what you need for them to get good results. So if you want full-time, you're obviously looking for somebody that can do this full-time. Sales experience, you know, cold calling is basically, it's a form of sales. So ask them what kind of sales experience they have. If they're more experienced with sales, that obviously, yes, is a green, a flag. It's not a red flag if they don't have experience, because cold calling isn't very difficult. It's just emotionally tough for some people. So you got to just make sure that, you know, they're okay doing sales and sales related stuff. Cold calling specific experience. Look, if they've got specific cold calling experience, and, you know, when you're asking them the highest number of appointments that they've set, if that's really good, then of course, like, you're going to want to give them a try. If they've got experience, like, give them more, like, you know, that makes them a really good candidate. Yes, but just because somebody doesn't have experience, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad candidate. You can make it work as long as they're hungry. What I look for, and this is generally what I would look for in terms of like an interview, is if somebody doesn't have experience, but they have different experience in like parallels. So like, for example, when it comes to sports or being really competitive, then these are situations that you might be able to, you know, people might do well in a sales role because they're used to competition, they're used to competing, they're used to performing, they're used to doing things that are tough, and, you know, training when you don't want to train and things like that. So these are the type of people that could do very well in this kind of environment as well. And then you're also asking them for their niche experience. So this is just to give an idea. So, you know, obviously if somebody has experience with your niche, they'll be able to relate to them a little bit better, which is of course going to be easier. And you also want them to upload a 30-second selfie video just talking about something they're passionate about. The reason for this is because we want to hear what they're like when they're selling something that they believe in. Are they like really dull and they're just kind of like monotone and quite miserable and quite sad even when they're selling something? or do they sound like really passionate, and like do they sound like what they're talking about is the coolest thing ever. Like for me, I'm not really into sports, like I'm not really into football, for example, but if somebody came and they recorded a selfie video telling me how passionate they are about football and how much, they love it and this and that, if they're making me feel like, what, maybe I need to go and give this football thing a shot, then I know that they're doing pretty well. Because when they're speaking with people in the cold call, we don't need them to be super loud, super expressive, super excited all the time. But we want to make sure that, they at least sound like what they're trying to sell is going to work. And that's important. They've got to be excited to sell what you're selling. And that's the application form. Pretty simple. When you get the application form in, it's kind of like a CRM up here. So we call it's an ATS, so it's an applicant tracking system. Pretty simple. The way that this works, this is using Airtable. And the way it works is we just grab their name and we capture the information that I mentioned before. So like address, contact number, age, where they're from, can they work in the time frame, and etc. And we just get the information. We keep it all there in the ATS. You can also just use like a Google Sheets. It's pretty simple if you want to keep it simple. And then you can just use that, and then you're looking for the application forms. The best applicants that you get, you want to go ahead and progress them onto the next stage, which is the interviewing stage. Now remember, because this role is going to be performance based, you don't need to be too strict on who you're hiring. You just need to make sure that they're the right fit for your team and they've got the right culture, and most importantly, they're hungry enough. Now, I'll tell you in a moment, after I go through what the interview should look like, I'll go through what you should be looking for. But in terms of the interview itself, just keep in mind that we're really getting a gauge on their character here. We're not really getting a gauge on what they're going to be like when they're working, because it's impossible to know. It's impossible to know what they're really going to be like once they're part of the team. So for now, it's just about, what is this person like as a character? So for the interview questions, some of the questions that you might want to use are, what stuck out to you about the performance and what made you reach out? / why do you feel like you're a good fit for this role? You want to get the confirmation, just say, are you fully comfortable with a 100% commission position? You would say, are you comfortable doing this full-time / transitioning, meaning transitioning to do this full-time eventually? Ask them if they have any other businesses or side gigs. Ask them if they've considered starting their business. If they have, it's not a red flag. That's okay. A lot of, great salespeople do have their own thing on the side, and that's totally okay. But you want to kind of work out, even, if this end up pulling off and working really well for them, will they go full time or will they leave and go ahead and start their own business eventually? Get an idea of that. You want to ask them what their previous work experience is. So ask them, what kind of cold calling they've done in the past, or kind of what their previous sales experience is like. If they're new to cold calling, ask them why do they feel like now is the right time to transition into cold calling. And why now do you want to transition into cold calling? You're looking for things where people are like, hey, well, I want to put my income into my own hands, and I want to actually make my own money as opposed to getting a salary. So that's why I want to kind of do a sales commission-based role, and cold calling is something that stood out for me. Or, if somebody says, well, I've been doing cold calling for a little bit, but I want to really get a job in it now because I just want more consistency, and, I'm not very good at service delivery side, so I thought, I would just do cold calling for people because sales is something I enjoy. That's the type of answer that you would potentially be hoping to get. Ask them what their career goals are. You want to figure out, is this something that really aligns with their long-term vision? Do they have a long-term vision in the first place? If they have a reason for doing stuff, then they're going to be more driven people naturally because they have a reason. For example, when you're hiring like appointment setters, it could be a cold calling appointment setter, it could be any type of appointment setter. If they reveal to you that eventually they want to become a closer, that's a really good sign, because it means that they know that this is the next step to eventually get them into the position where they would be closing. You want to ask them what would make this the best opportunity for them, which essentially, what do you need from me? What would this need to look like to be the best option? And then what would make this the worst opportunity for you? So what is it that you don't want, essentially? And then lastly, if you were offered this position, how soon would you be able to start doing cold calling full time? And then they would answer that. They may say, well, I can't do full time right away. I can do a 2-week trial, and then after that, if it makes sense, I can hand in my resignation at my job and go full time. They may say something like that. It depends, and you just want to get this information. Now, in terms of what to look for when it comes to the interview process, because as I said before, we're getting really an idea on their character, less an idea of what they're going to be like working, because you never really know that until you're actually working with them. So we're looking for somebody who possesses a strong determination and ambition to excel and actually do well. This means that not just hit the targets, but go beyond them and really, really maximize their performance. We're looking for them to have abilities needed to achieve the set targets and performance indicators. So whatever your KPIs are, your key performance indicators, making sure that they can actually hit those, hit the targets, whether that's doing enough dials in a day or whatever, and however you're doing your KPI approach. You want to make sure that they are adaptable and willing to learn and eager to develop under your guidance. So what I mean by this is coachable, essentially. Make sure that they're willing to come to you, ask you questions, learn from you, follow your advice, and do what you ask them to do. They show truthfulness and moral uprightness in their answers, basically meaning that they're going to be honest with you, and they're going to be, pretty much honesty. They're going to be honest, they've got good integrity, and make sure that you can uphold that, or they can uphold that. They're clear about their career path and goals. I touched on this before, but if people are seeing this as like a stepping stone to something that's coming later, that's a good place to work from, because they're more likely to actually want to make it work. So that's a super big thing as well. You want to make sure, when I say make sure, like you want to see that they have some type of natural talent for connecting with others. So, back when we asking them to do a little video and tell us more about them, it's just like, do they seem like they're good communicators in general? And when I say about connecting with others, that's what I mean. Do they have, are they good at communicating? Are they good at finding their words? Especially when they're on the spot. Are they good at finding what they need to say right away, or do they start freaking out? If they start freaking out, they're not going to be a good fit for a sales-based role, and definitely not a cold calling role. Of course, this is stuff you can work on, but you're looking to hire now, not in 6 months. You want to understand if they've had like previous jobs that they've worked and they've left, they want to be able to clearly understand to you, explain to you why they left. If you can't get a clear understanding of why they left their job, it's a red flag, because ultimately it's like, well, why did you leave your previous job? If they don't want to tell you that, then they're going to be like potentially holding something back, and you want to understand why now is the right time for this role. And then also you want to make sure that their financial aspirations match what the job offers. So if you are saying that your range is, I don't know, let's say between 800 to 1,500, right? Let's say that's OTE. Well, if that's the case, and they come ahead and they say they want to make 400, well, that's half of what they would need to make just to, hit the minimum KPI for you. And if that's the case, that's not good enough. It needs to be higher. You ideally want people that want to make a little bit more money than what your range looks like, because these are the people that are really going to maximize and really go all out to make it happen. These are the people that really, really want that money. They're going to make it work. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. And then lastly, what do you do when you hire? So what you want to do is you'll go through the application form. Out of those people, you're going to pick a few people that you can go and interview. Out of the people that you interview, what you want to do is you pick your top 3 to 5 candidates, and you want to go ahead and give them a 2-week trial and 1K leads. So give them 1,000 leads, say here's 2 weeks, go through everything, we'll keep an eye on you, we'll support you in the meantime, and it's a trial to see if this works for you and if you work for us, and it's just to see if we're a good fit. So you go ahead, you're transparent with the trial, you're still going to pay them like it's the same, you're just letting them know, hey, within this 2 weeks, it's really a make it or break it type of thing. During this period, you really want to focus on seeing if they are like actually just taking the calls and maximizing the results, or if they procrastinate and are lazy. The reason that I prefer to give them 1K leads up front is because if they go ahead and essentially contact like 20 people a day, then it's not what we need with a cold calling team. We want them to do at least 100 dials a day in this scenario. So we're going to give them 1K leads, and we're going to see can they hit that. Right? And ideally what we want is for them to come back after this 2 weeks and say, hey, can you, or before the 2 weeks, and say, hey, can you give us more leads? Like I've reached out to everybody. And that's really what is the best scenario. But you just want to make sure that, look, if you give them a bunch of leads and they're just lazing around, not doing the work, when you've given them everything that they need, you're giving them training, you're giving them the script, you're giving them the leads, there's no reason for them not to pick up the phone and dial, unless there's something going on with them mentally. And by mentally, I mean their mindset. Mindset's not quite right. Or they're just not as driven and not as hungry as you need them to be. And okay, I've repeated this a couple times, but for commission-based roles, your reps need to be driven to win. They need to be hungry, and you need to give them an opportunity to show you how hungry they are. If they end up not performing and not seeking guidance and not trying to improve, then let them go. If they're not in a position where they're trying to become the very best that they can be and they're asking you for help to do that, let them go. If they are not performing quite at KPI, they're a little bit below KPI, but they're very coachable, and you can see that, hey, if I can give them a couple of weeks, they're probably going to do well, then give them the coaching, keep them on, and just keep helping them. But ultimately, they should be able to hit your KPI within those 2 weeks. And, you know, at a minimum KPI, just go for 100 dials a day. As long as they can do 100 dials a day and, you know, they're performing at KPI, booking you the amount of meetings that you're looking for, really 2 to 3 to 5 meetings per 100 dials, then you should be good. You know, you should be good at that point. Now, obviously, it's possible that your script isn't very good. It's possible, these things are all possible. But again, like if you've done this, especially if you've done this before, you should be able to just give them what you know works, and they should be able to completely crush it with that. So if you're an agency owner and you're looking to get some help on booking a more consistent and predictable flow of qualified meetings for your agency, click the link down below. It's going to explain a little bit more about who I am, what it is I do, how I help agencies actually master their client acquisition. So click that link if you do want help. If you don't, that's no problem at all. I hope you found this video valuable. If you've got any questions about this process, comment them down below. I know it can be a little bit confusing sometimes. And make sure to hit that subscribe button as well so you can keep up to date with these videos. They are free. You just got to watch them, take action, and you will get the results. So I hope you found this valuable. And it was actually one of my favorite videos to record in a while. I really enjoy talking about cold calling because I know really how effective it is and how well it works. You just got to go out there and build the team. One more thing that I didn't mention quite before is when I say that you want to do a test for the 3 to 5 applicants, you're really looking for the top ones that are performing. If you had managed hiring 5 and they all perform really well, then there's no reason not to keep them on. At the end of the day, you're paying them on a performance basis, so like, why not? You know, you keep that going. So yeah, keep that in mind. Hope that helps. If you've got a comment, put it down below, and I'll see you again in the next video.